the trigger that begins the whole conflict.
This war features trench warfare, new weaponry, and results in massive casualties, with an estimated 10 million soldiers and 7 million civilians dead. For the first time, members of the Rothschild family align with opposing sides. Though the Rothschilds survive World War I and even profit from war financing, their scale of operation is overshadowed by the rising banking dynasty in America, the House of Morgan, now led by J. Pierpont Morgan's son, Jack Morgan. The Morgan Bank serves as the key financier for the U.S. government during World War I, raising funds through war bonds and extending crucial loans to European allies.
In 1935, the Jewish Chronicle ventured to suggest, with perhaps a hint of relief, that the Rothschilds' heyday was waning. The most intellectually gifted of the next generation of Rothschild men turned his back on the family business.
After World War I, the House of Rothschild finds itself in disarray, and different banking divisions pursue various objectives and become more integrated into the countries where they operate. At the same time, Europe sees a surge in anti-Semitic sentiment, driven by economic hardships and political unrest. The Rothschild family, as prominent Jewish bankers, faces heightened scrutiny and hostility. In Germany, following its defeat, the nation endures one of its most severe economic downturns. A new kind of leader harnesses the anger of the German public and swiftly rises to the position of chancellor. His rise to power spells trouble for the House of Rothschild, especially the German banking branches. In 1939, just 21 years after the end of World War I, the biggest war in human history erupts. In the spring of 1940, Hitler secures victory after victory. Denmark and Norway quickly fall under occupation. Next, the German army sweeps across the Netherlands and Belgium. Europe makes a desperate stand in France, but it's no match for German armor and air power. And by June, Hitler's in Paris. Britain is the Germans' next target. If Hitler conquers Europe, the House of Rothschild will face its certain demise. While some Rothschild members engage in resistance movements against the Nazi occupation, many flee Europe to escape persecution, seeking exile in safer countries.
When German tanks rolled into Paris in 1940, the French Rothschilds were in grave peril. The older ones, Edward, Robert, and Maurice, managed to escape. They ended up by sundry paths and stops in the United States or England.
As a result, the family endures significant financial and personal losses as their assets are seized and properties confiscated.
General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe.
As the Rothschild dynasty becomes increasingly fragmented, N.M. Rothschild of London takes on the challenge of rebuilding and carving out its own direction. For N.M. Rothschild and Sons, their core competitive advantage remains government financing.
This has also been a core strategy of the Rothschilds. They work closely with the government to finance big projects. The Rothschild believes that as long as they have good relationships with governments of strong countries, their business will always do well.
Rather than aiming for expansion, Rothschild preserves its business model as a private club, financing elites while evading public scrutiny. By the 1970s, a future media mogul seeks N.M. Rothschild's assistance. His name is Robert Maxwell. Maxwell served in the British Army during World War II. After the war, he worked for British intelligence and later entered the publishing industry. In the 1950s and 1960s, Maxwell acquired several British publishing companies, including Pergamon Press and Mirror Group newspapers.
He had a traumatic beginning to his life as a child, and most of his family were wiped out in the Holocaust.
I think the experience of extreme poverty and great hardship scarred him to life. Not being taught became an absolute imperative.
But to expand his business empire, he will need money, lots of money, the type only powerhouses like the Rothschilds can provide. In the 1980s, Maxwell's investments look like they're doing well, but trouble is brewing inside N.M. Rothschild. Lord Victor Rothschild and his son Jacob are on one side, fighting with their cousin Sir Evelyn de Rothschild.
Around this time, the banking world was changing a lot. Bigger banks were acquiring smaller ones, making them mega banks, and new ways of making money, like derivatives and options, came up in the 1980s. These new tools help banks make more money and also help them manage risk better.
Jacob Rothschild believes the bank must adapt to modern corporate strategies and pursue aggressive expansion. Sir Evelyn, who leads N.M. Rothschild and Sons, asserts that modernizing the ownership structure risks the family's absolute control. He insists the Rothschilds' bank must always be wholly owned by the Rothschilds, even if it demands short-term sacrifices. But family drama soon become their least concern. A massive scandal erupts, threatening the Rothschilds' reputation.
The millionaire newspaper publisher Robert Maxwell is dead. He disappeared overboard from his private yacht early this morning while cruising off the Canary Islands.
In the early 1990s, revelations surfaced that Maxwell misappropriated hundreds of millions from his employees' pension funds to sustain his enterprises and luxurious life.
I feel that, and I've grappled with this a lot, I feel that possibly the line between suicide and an accident is less clear-cut than we tend to assume.
Maxwell's mysterious death in 1991, after vanishing from his yacht near the Canary Islands, spurs investigations into his financial misdeeds. While the Rothschilds' involvement in Maxwell's demise remains unclear, the event blemishes their reputation. But for Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, the scandal reaffirms his beliefs about the bank's need for discretion and privacy. But N.M. Rothschild is still just the tip of the extensive Rothschild legacy. By 2023, the Rothschild family diversifies its interests across multiple sectors, extending beyond traditional banking. Their enterprises encompass investment banking, wealth and asset management, private equity, and philanthropy. The original banking establishments in Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, London, and Naples, once the bedrock of the Rothschild banking dynasty, have adapted to the evolving financial landscape. While banking is still central, the family's influence now permeates a wider range of financial services.
Throughout history, the Rothschild family was often not hesitant about making more money. But when it comes to maintaining family legacy, they were able to let go of those opportunities. This kind of long-term view is both respected and scary.